Americans for Tax Reform, we ask all candidates for federal, state office to sign a pledge to the American people, not as Harry Reid and President Obama sometimes think to me personally. This is the American people that they'll vote against all efforts to raise taxes, or if they're governor or president, they'll veto any effort to raise taxes. So step one in tax reform is do no harm. Step one in tax reform is no tax increase. And to the extent that we can block tax increases, we begin the conversation in state capitals and in Washington about reforming government to cost less. If taxes are an option, you never think about or get forced to discuss reforming government to cost less. So don't raise taxes. After that, I think we should be driven by the wisdom of Samuel Gompers and Mae West. Samuel Gompers, the labor union thug, who, when asked what do working people want, well, he had moments. What do working people want? He said more. What do taxpayers want? Less. So when we come to the table, we want lower taxes. And what Mae West said about sex is true about tax cuts. All tax cuts are good tax cuts. Even the bad tax cuts are good tax cuts. So don't raise taxes and work to reduce them. Now, I share Steve Forbes and I think Robert's view that we should tax consumed income one time at one rate. Consumed income meaning you don't tax savings and investment, you don't tax income that people spend twice. You tax it at one rate, not because that's fair. Taxation is taking money from people who earned it and giving it to people who didn't necessarily earn it. Fairness is not part of this discussion. But if you do have a single rate tax, then politicians who want more of your life have to look at everybody in the state or everybody in the nation and say, I've got a really clever idea and you're all paying for it. Well, if we're all paying for it, we're all listening. Prior to moving to the United States, I used to live in Massachusetts, and there, in Massachusetts, we have by constitution a single rate tax, 5.25%. Given Massachusetts left of center Democrat proclivities, you'd think its marginal tax rate would be higher. States with single rate taxes, even Illinois, also single rate flat tax, have lower taxes on the income tax than you'd expect. My favorites are the 7 or 9 that have 0 as the rate. Very difficult to move off 0. Very difficult to move, if everybody's paying 4 or 5, to move it up. If in Massachusetts is 5 times when people say, could people go to a single rate tax? Massachusetts has 5 times had put on the ballot a move to a progressive or graduated income tax. 5 times the people of Massachusetts have voted that down with a fairly sophisticated conversation on talk radio and letters to the editor. Sure, year 1, they'll raise Ted Kennedy's taxes and cut mine. But year 2, they'll come back for me and Ted Kennedy will be on his yacht. Okay? And so they'll just keep moving our taxes up higher and higher. The argument for a single rate tax is that it's difficult to increase and it unites the people against the interests of the state and doesn't allow the state to divide us. States like to divide us into different groups and mug us one at a time. This is the Richard Speck theory of tax increases. That if you can't take on everybody in the room at once, you take them out of the room one at a time. We don't want the politicians to be able to take us out of the room one at a time, raise our taxes, and then come back for somebody else. So not raise them, lower, and move towards a single rate tax because it's easier to defend.